Now, Edzai Zvobwo, who is the founder of MathsGee and the co-founder of the Education Support Forum, is here with us today. This is someone who is passionate about empowering Africans through mathematics, problem-solving techniques, and technology. An education evangelist who teaches mathematical thinking as a life skill, he has been recognized by a number of reputable and prestigious organizations, including being an SABC Education Ambassador for STEM, an Archbishop Tutu Leadership Fellow, being an expert on emerging technologies, an Agenda 2063 champion for skills development, and a Bill and Melinda Gates goalkeeper. This is someone we definitely want to be hearing from. So with that, let's welcome Edzai.
All right. Sure, thank you very much. I'm really delighted to be here today. I've been following the Sasol TechnoX from home, and it's been exquisite. It's been amazing. Thank you to the foundation and everyone else involved in producing such an immaculate event. So as said, my name is Edzai Zvobwo, born and bred in Zimbabwe, Harare. I went to high school in Harare, went to university at the University of Zimbabwe, where I studied a BSc honors in mathematics. And then upon finishing my mathematics, I came to South Africa, and my first job in 2005 was as a teacher at a small private school in the middle of Pretoria. So when I joined this school, I got the shock of my life. What I saw at the school was a big challenge. The teachers that were teaching mathematics were afraid of maths. The parents were afraid of maths. The students, the learners, were afraid of maths. So there was this consensus in the tripartite ecosystem to say, maths, it's okay to fail. It's okay to not shoot high in mathematics. So this challenge, I say to myself, I will not let it pass. So what I did was, I just started writing little motivational notes for my learners and started, organically, it so happened that 40% of my time was motivation and 60% was delivering academic content. And over time, you could see that the learners in my classes were marginally doing better than the classes that were doing 100% content. So it told me that the maths problem wasn't a maths ability problem, but was a confidence problem. It was a messaging problem. There were not enough people that were telling the learners that maths can be done. So what I did was, I took my little notes and compiled them into this little book called The Mathematical Genius in You. I wrote this little book, and I just started selling it to the learners at the school and in small events around, where you literally open the boot of your car and start selling this book. And then it so happened that at one of the events, SABC Education was there, and they loved the book. They loved the book because I was speaking to something that was not mathematical, but talking about mathematics. The fact that I was talking about motivation, talking about problem solving, instead of talking about mathematics, but talking about mathematics was kind of like an oxymoron in itself. So what I did was, I joined hands with SABC. We started going around the country at events preaching the gospel of mathematics. We would go into churches, into community centers, talking about the potential for mathematics to change the future. Because I am a living proof that mathematics gives you wings, literally. So what happened was that I'll go back after high school. I was not sure what I wanted to do. So when I went to university, I changed programs in the first 2 weeks, I think 3 times, because I was not sure what I wanted to do, you know? So in the end, I settled for what we called a BSc General, where I did maths, physics, and statistics. But after the first year, I found my foot and realized that mathematics was my calling. So I was quickly put into an accelerated program where you could do 4 years in 3 years. So I did an accelerated honors degree at the University of Zimbabwe and came out with the honors degree. And then let's fast forward now and say, what is it that I saw in my travels with SABC, in my travels in these churches, in these communities? I saw communities that needed to hear the right messaging. I saw communities that needed someone to switch the thinking so that we can be able to produce the graduates that we need for this country. So, in 2013, I left teaching and went into a full-time mathematics business, where I said, I am going to form a company, and this company is going to make sure that we help produce human resources that are going to help us in producing a lot of people that are mathematically savvy. So what I did, I left my job and started MathsGee. Now, with MathsGee, we are currently the biggest online question and answer platform for STEM in Africa at the moment. We are solving the maths problem for more than 1 million students at any given quarter of the year. So we have almost achieved what we set out to do in the instance where we started. So let me start and say, what is the message that we were sending out in these churches? So, as a mathematician, you are a problem solver, right? Mathematics teaches you how to think. It teaches you to say, whatever problem that you are faced with, you can think in a logical manner and be able to solve it. So, the 5 steps of being a mathematician are as follows. Number 1, understand the problem. That is something that is crucial to being a successful mathematician. And beyond mathematics, any problem solving in life, number 1 is understanding the problem. And how do you understand the problem? Given a situation, you do like what journalists do. They ask, what, where, who, when, how, right? They ask all those questions and paraphrase the questions and understand a problem before solving it. And then, once you've understood the problem, then you say, what method can I use, right? What method can I use? So first, understand the problem. Second is, how can I solve this problem? What are the methods that are available to me? So in mathematics, this is where now you say, which formula can I use? Now that I've understood the problem, which method can I use? Then, step number 3 is implementation of the problem, of the solution, right? Remember, 1, you said, I am going to understand the problem. Secondly, you said, what method can I use to understand the problem? Then thirdly, implement the problem. And then number 4, and this is very crucial because a lot of students have failed mathematics, not because they didn't know what they were doing, but because they made silly mistakes, is to evaluate. And those of you in the audience who do project management will tell me that this is exactly how you solve problems in your projects. So it's 1, understand the problem. 2, get a method that you're going to use, which is like a formula. Thirdly, implement. Fourthly, evaluate, right? So that's important in solving mathematical problems. So if we have a framework for teaching kids how to solve maths problems, then we're sorted. So in teaching kids how to think, right, having that framework is better than showing them methods and rote learning. Because that, we say, is the spirit of parrotology, where they are just regurgitating what has been said. And usually when you haven't understood a problem and you've just learnt the methods, you'll be able to do it in class. But when you go back home and try it on your own, it's quite tough. You get it? It's quite tough. So we as teachers and you at home who are watching learners, you have to make sure that you have a structured way of approaching mathematics. Because the skills that you learn in mathematics are applicable in every facet of life. Because basically, the reason why from grade 1 all the way to grade 12, you are being given problems to solve is because they're training you to be a prolific problem solver. And if anyone comes out and tells you that mathematics is easy, that person is a liar. Mathematics is not easy. Mathematics is hard, but mathematics can be done. And the secret ingredients to success in mathematics is something called grit. Grit, G-R-I-T, where you're saying, I know that this simultaneous equation is difficult. I know that it's going to be useful as well in the future. So I'm going to strive to make sure that I make it. Right? So grit is that thing that is going to get you to success. But obviously, like I said, grit alone won't make it. You need grit, you need to be resilient, right? And you need to be structured in your thinking. You find sometimes our people will say, we have a service delivery problem, our bins are not being collected. And what do our people do? They go and burn the clinic in the community. Right, that is an example of us not understanding the problem. It's almost like we are imposing a solution, the wrong solution to a problem. But if you're mathematically trained, you know that, okay, let's understand the problem. How can we solve it? What do we have? Who do we need to speak to? What is it that we can do? And you actually lay out and come up with a solution. We have the capacity to solve all our problems because we have everything it takes to succeed. We have everything it takes to succeed. And we should actually appreciate what South Africa has to offer. Many a time, I know the news, the negative news cycles, everything might make you feel down, but at the end of the day, we have a thriving country that is setting us up for success in a lot of ways. I'll tell you why. Just last week, I was in Accra, Ghana, as part of an African Union panel of experts on emerging technologies, and they were looking at the impact of technologies like blockchain, IoT, 3D printing, among others. And I can assure you that South Africa is the only country that has taken steps already to implement such kind of technologies. It has policies. It has something even like POPIA, like for information technology, right? So we have the base for a lot of things. Our manufacturing is the most advanced in Africa. So we have to take advantage of the fact that a lot of OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, are based in South Africa and are willing to partner with the country to produce for local and international. So it's important that we thrive in subjects like mathematics. I always talk about mathematics. I use mathematics as a vehicle to talk about what is possible, because it is that subject that teaches you to think. That's the purpose of mathematics, to teach you how to think. And then you take that thinking and extrapolate it in any of the subjects that you're doing or any of the careers that you're doing. So we have to appreciate that South Africa has a lot to offer. In my travels, as I've mentioned, I have seen from an infrastructure perspective, we are way ahead. And that is something that we should work on. But the secret sauce to South Africa that I think deserves recognition is the work that Sasol is doing, being in education. Because I remember back in 2014, we used to go to the Rosebank office every other week with Bridge. And there, as part of Sasol in Zalo, we thought about the problems of education. We came up with solutions. Sasol has been knee-deep in education for a very long time. And I, for one, have been a beneficiary of the Sasol programs. Because through Sasol in Zalo, I met some of the business people that I'm doing work with, some of the non-profits that I'm doing work with. I met them through Sasol in Zalo in that boardroom by teachers, maths teachers, have benefited from Sasol's partnership with organizations like Siavula, organizations like the Maths Olympiad of South Africa, in training kids from a very young age. And that is the secret sauce of South Africa. That, even if you might say, okay, maybe Sasol is doing it for BEE purposes, right? But it's working. So let's continue doing it, because it's working. Because, yes, it's not for compliance, even if it's for compliance, right? But it's working. Because you find that everywhere you travel, across the continent and beyond, there is no country that says that give 3% of your net profit after tax to doing good, and it's legislated, otherwise you can't get business. That is amazing. Even this ESG movement that's happening now, coming out of Europe and the US, to me, when I look at ESG, I'm like, hey, we've been having it. You know, we've been having it, we've been doing it through BEE. But only that now, when it's coming from the US and Europe, it looks like it's something different, but we've been doing it. Sasol has been worried about climate change for the longest time, and they've been doing something about it, as we saw earlier on with the SAF. So we've been doing ESG, only that now, when it comes from there, they've now just attached it to the ability to raise money, right, on the stock exchange. They've packaged it differently, but we've been doing it. And Sasol should actually be a case study for the rest of the world on how to do ESG. Right? So it's amazing that the government, in trying to address other problems, is actually solving a huge problem. Because as I told you, to get corporate social responsibility funds to help you in your education, to help you in your initiatives in the community, you can't get that in other countries. Companies are purely about profit. So we have to appreciate that 3% of net profit after tax. 3%, it's amazing. And we need to clap hands for ourselves. Let's do that anyway. Right, but BEE has been nice, but at the same time, it has also had its unintended consequences, right? And I'll tell you about them because we've experienced them. So as MathsGee, we have MOUs, Memorandum of Understandings, with a few technology OEMs. We work with Google, IBM, Cisco, Oracle, among others. And we have been running these skills programs for these emerging technologies to say, do you want to be a data scientist? There is a free course, do it. By the time you finish that Google data science program, you are employable. The next day you can go look for a job. You get it? And we've been running them across the continent, right? With these technology OEMs. But we have had the lowest intake or uptake from South Africa. When you present these programs, the students or the unemployed youths will tell you, is it accredited? Right? Is it accredited? Tell me, if you're learning to code in Python or learning Java or any of those languages, does it matter whether it's accredited or not? If you've got the skills, you've got the skills. Whether you learned the skills under a tree or wherever in a 5-star, nicely aerated building like this one, it doesn't matter. It's about skills. Yes, there are professions like being a doctor and all that. You can't just, yeah? Right? So we have to get past the accreditation handicap that's stifling the growth for South African skills development. Because if you are getting a certificate from AWS, Amazon, or Oracle, or any of those OEMs, you are ready for work. You get it? And it's free. And you know why it's free in South Africa especially? Because in as much as you think the government is bad, but they managed to negotiate a certain flavor of BEE called the Equity Equivalence Program that is run by DTI. Did you know about that one? So those OEMs coming into South Africa, your Huawei's, Ericsson's, all of these, they have a mandate to make sure that you, the grade 11, you, the grade 12, are exposed to skills that matter for free. For free. That was negotiated by government. But the problem is there exists an information asymmetry where we have so many programs, but the intended beneficiaries don't know about them. That's why we love events like Sasol TechnoX, where we get to talk to you learners directly, we get to talk to you teachers and the general public straight without any intermediaries. That is the power of the internet. So we have to make sure that all the programs that are available to learners, practical and theoretical, are well-known beneficiaries. Because I was actually laughing that when I go to DST, the Department of Science and Technology, it's always the same crowd that's going to different programs, because they're the ones that know what the department is doing. But the entrepreneur in Kuruman, in Northern Cape, has no idea what TIA is. He has no idea what CSIR is. So we have to make sure that we communicate the benefits that South Africa has to give. South Africa is the land of milk and honey. And we have to appreciate it. Go out there and you realize that you're swimming in honey. So as a South African learner, as a South African teacher, let us strive to be the best we can be. We know that it's fashionable to bash ourselves, right? To say we are the last in maths and science, we are this, the politics this. We can be drowning in negative energy, but if we take ourselves out and actually look at it objectively, you'll see that this is the Garden of Eden. This is a land of milk and honey. So let us create OEMs from here. Let us strive to be the best we can be. Thank you very much for the time. I appreciate you listening to me for these few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that impassioned speech, right, Edzai? You really did draw the parallels between the world of mathematics and STEM and real life. Remember those 4 steps, learners? Problem, right? Problems exist everywhere. Second, method. What am I going to do to solve it? Specifically in school, formulas, but in real life, what are the various ways that you can approach your problems? 3, implement. So once you've figured out a method, actually go out and do something about it. And then finally, evaluate, going back up to check if the steps that we've taken are correct. Who would have guessed, right? Mathematics is so closely linked to real life. And maybe as we begin to get these things right, we will begin to feel the passion that Edzai has for maths, for life, and for this country and continent. Thank you once again, Edzai, for that wonderful speech.